All right, so this is me trying to make sure everything looks witchy and pretty and pretend that this is how I live my life and this is how my tarot decks live. This needs to go on. That's no, I still want to do that. I'm going to move these. Try and make it look good for you guys. This is the shit that I have to go through for you. Wait a minute. It's almost perfect. I'm just going to swap that guy out. He's no good. Thea, let's get in some citrine. I think citrine's going to be good. Oh, perfect. In this video, I'm going to be rating or reviewing the product packaging, the cardstock, and the artwork. And I'll be giving it a rating out of 10. If you're new to me or this channel, welcome! I am Hannah, the Suburban Witch. I am a professional astrologer and tarot reader and witch, and I teach people as well. So I run tarot classes and psychic divination courses and all sorts of things. So definitely go and check it out. I've got links below in the description box. I'm also the host of the Witch Talks podcast, so you can check me out there. And I would love it if you subscribed. I know it doesn't mean much to you to just click a button, but it means so much to me and any other creators that you follow. So like and subscribe, leave me a comment if you wish. And on that note, I want to do a special shout out to Myrna, because I see you and I see that every single one of my videos, you are the first to comment, no matter what, almost the moment it comes out, and it just makes my heart swell. It's so lovely to have that, loyalty and connection, and I just love you. Thank you. Okay, now this deck is special because it was my first tarot deck. That's right, baby Hannah's very first tarot deck. Now, if you don't know my story, and I have chatted about it, I think I've been interviewed on a few podcasts about it. If you ever want to hear my story and my side of things, check out the About Me page on my website, because I do link all of the podcasts I've been interviewed on there. And they're fascinating. I think it's fascinating. But I grew up evangelical Christian, so tarot was extremely scary and evil and wrong, and demons were going to pop out if you even thought of tarot, right? So I came to the tarot with that. That was hard to work through, but I did. And when I went to buy my first tarot deck, which was guided through intuition and clairaudience, where I was literally hearing, buy a tarot deck. And I'm like, I can't do that. I was like, buy a tarot deck. I'm like, no. And I ended up succumbing and listening and buying it, and my life changed for the better. And it almost I bought my first tarot deck, this one, on the exact degree that my Saturn was returning. So my exact Saturn return. And if you know anything about astrology, my Saturn is in Capricorn, often rules over career. And what do you know? That purchase signaled a major career change. Typical Saturn return, hey? Anyways, when I went to buy my first deck, the Rider-Waite-Smith, no, too scary. I had seen it before and related it to not nice things because of my upbringing. I couldn't do it. And a lot of the other ones were just a bit too dark. I needed something that was uplifting and light, and that was this. The packaging is it made me think of fairies, and it was ethereal and fantasy and magical. It felt safe. Surprisingly, some of the cards in this are actually a little bit more intense than the Rider-Waite-Smith. So let's talk about the packaging. Now, this deck is an old deck, and it has gone through 3 interstate moves with me. It has been thrown around in my handbag, not like many times. It's held up pretty well. Surprisingly, I thought this would have, dissolved long ago, but it's still going strong. It isn't my most used deck anymore, but I do still use it quite frequently. So the packaging, strangely durable. I like that it's small, it doesn't take up too much space. I wish that it had more of a clasp, because if I do throw it in my bag, I have to put an elastic band around it. Otherwise, that happens. Now, that's a benefit when I'm doing my readings and I'm like, I want to pull this deck out. And it just, whoop, here we go. Let's go. Time saving, also frustrating. And I'm always like, I don't want to lose a card. You know how it is. All right, so cardstock is next. I love the cardstock. I love it. I love it. It's wonderful. Packaging, I'm going to say, is like loses a point for the fally outy bit. The rest has been surprisingly good. This only loses like a half point because it's a little bit shiny. So if you have a look, so I'm sure you can see it's quite glossy, which it can be difficult if I'm taking photographs of it or using it on a Zoom call. It shuffles like a dream. It fits into my hand really well. I can hold it all with one hand. And the cards, you know, you don't need to have these thick, fancy cardstocks for them to be durable. This has lasted years. I have zero signs of wear and tear on these. Like, there's no fancy edging or anything, but I think they're still really pretty. There's this beautiful, like, soft purple vibes. Very dreamy. So they shuffle well. They spread magnificently. You know, this and my Rider-Waite-Smith, love that cardstock. One of my favorites. So the deck has two creators, basically. There was someone who did the artwork, and there is someone who did the little white book, so the LWB. I threw that white book out a very long time. I never used it. It was like a sentence for each card, and I actually didn't even want to use that when I was learning the tarot. I just wanted to jump in with my intuition, so I just threw it out. I don't know if it was good. It probably wasn't very good from memory, because I wasn't impressed. It was like, I can do better than that. Threw it in the bin. That was by Barbara Moore, but the artwork in this is by, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name properly. It's Stephanie Poiman-Law. I'm going to show you. There's her name. Iconic. She's amazing. Her artwork, phenomenal. 0 faults. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for artwork, because each of these cards, they are so incredibly detailed. Probably the hardest thing is that the size of the cards, which isn't super small, it's not a tiny deck, there's just so much in them that every time I pull a card, I see something new or something else. And I just wish I had them all blown up and artwork on the wall, which would be a lot of artwork, but they're just so beautiful. I'm almost tempted to get the really large deck just so I can get deeper into the cards. But then this is just such a good size for shuffling. So I'm just going to show you a couple, and then I'm going to do a flip through of all of them at the end if you want to see them all. So what I love is she's still actually used quite a few zodiac correspondences in the cards. So this one is the Chariot, and we can see there's a Cancer, little crab there for Cancer, and this card is ruled by Cancer. So that was really helpful in the beginning when I was learning to make some of these astrological correspondences. And we don't actually get that from the Rider-Waite-Smith traditional imagery. She's managed to keep a lot of that traditional feeling in each of the cards without copying the Rider-Waite-Smith and keeping it all really unique. Here is the Four of Pentacles. It's quite a greedy, hoardy sort of energy, right? And, you know, he's all curled in on himself, protecting his treasure, protecting his energy. It tracks. I think the Empress is a really beautiful card. And when I do the flip through, by the way, they're not going to be in order because I use this deck, right? It's my used deck, so I'm not putting them back in order for you guys. I love you all, but I don't need to do that. I have to get to school pickup. This one is the Eight of Pentacles. I love it. It's this little spider. He's hard at work making his little web. Very hardworking little spider. And it's just, I love these cards. Now, some of them, because as I said, I started with these and I really went into the intuitive section first. I wanted to see what I thought before I ever looked up any meanings. And so I've got some really interesting opinions about what these cards made. And what I love as well, see how this card down the bottom, this is the Page of Swords. There is actually a little flower there, and that is a calendula flower, which is known as all heal. So because there's a few correspondences like that, there's a few that have these, I'm going to show you, like there's another little flower here in the Two of Swords. So I find a lot of them have these herbal references, but also this is the Magician, and see that greenery there and that he's holding? To me, that's like heart chakra vibes. And so I get this like added layer that may or may not be traditional, but it's just really intriguing that I get with this deck. It's like a different flavor, right? A different cuisine to the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's from a different country, different culture. I do find this deck is really good for difficult reads. And by difficult, I mean quite emotional ones. So if there's a question that is really deep, questions about spirituality, message from guides, spiritual gifts, I use this deck. Health readings, I will sometimes use this deck, but not like standard, like how's my health gonna be? More like I'm really struggling with my fertility. We're struggling to conceive. And then I'll pull this out, right? Some of those more sensitive questions, questions about loss, really, really deep, painful things. I find this just has a bit of a softer touch than the Rider-Waite-Smith, and I really like that. It's not for all readings. I don't use it for all of them. It's become this like special sensitivity deck in a way. There's a lot of animals. Crows frequent the deck. Here's the Ten of Swords, which we know to be sometimes a bit of a scary card in the other one, and it's just kind of still beautiful, if you know what I mean. We have little fishies, there's butterflies, there's foxes, there's swans. It's just nice. It's, as I said, ethereal. There's this real nature link, kind of fairy vibe, other world, shadowscapes, right? It does have this almost darkness to it as well, dark softness that I just really enjoy. I find it really, really intriguing. So this is one of my favorite decks. I think it is heavily underrated, and I actually give it a 9 out of 10 on the Hannah scale. 9 out of 10 tarot decks. 9 out of 10 stars. 9 out of 10 witches' hats. So if you are looking for a new deck, I would highly suggest you consider the Shadowscapes Tarot. I love it, and I don't say that about all the decks. I'm pretty picky. It also has a special place in my heart because it was my first one. And now let's do a flip through. Remember, you can pause if you want to take a closer look, and if you really want, you can actually ask me in a comment and say, hey, I really want a closer look at this certain card, and I'll do a little short for you and upload it as a YouTube short. So I hope you enjoyed this little look at the Shadowscapes deck, this little review video. I'll be doing a few more reviews in the future of other decks that I have. So if you're looking for a new one, definitely go through my little unboxings and reviews playlist to see which ones I suggest that you look at. I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world today, and I'll chat with you next time.